thing fired up. Well, welcome to Mech 210, Engineering Mechanics, Stags. It goes by a bunch of different names. I'm Professor Hargrove. I always love to start these semesters out by welcoming you all back to Flint, Michigan for a fun summer in Flint. Usually that doesn't get a whole lot of like, oh man, I'm so glad I can be here in Flint. Flint's so awesome for summertime. You gotta see the looks I get when I do the same thing in the winter time. Welcome to Flint for a winter. How many of you are actually from this area? I want to talk about you guys more than me. Where are you from?
Just right outside of Flushing, like right between here and downtown.
So real local. You got plenty of experience in Flint. I was born here about 100 years ago, so I've had a few experiences with them too. Who else from nearby? How about you?
Grand Blanc.
Grand Blanc. When I was a student here, so I'm an alum, I went here from 82 to 87, and I usually get looks when I say that like 1982 or 1982 to 87, and I clocked in Grand Blanc. It's a plant that's on Saginaw Street. Stayed there for 10 years, so I got sick and tired of General Motors and moved on. Anybody else nearby? How about you?
From Flushing.
Flushing, so I got a couple of Flushings at Grand Blanc. Anybody else willing to admit it? What about you?
Oxford.
Oxford, yeah. Okay, so move down I-75 just a little bit for that one there. How about the long distance, folks? This is from a long, long, long way away from here. How about you?
Cleveland.
Where?
Cleveland.
Cleveland? Still walkable. How about you? Oh, man, I couldn't hear that. Now there we're talking. What part of South Carolina? I love that area. Love the history down there. You too?
Yeah, we're both in the same school.
Sweet. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. How about you?
I wouldn't call it long distance, but we're here.
Oh, you're long enough. Yeah. That's a bit of a ride. How about you?
From Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, Nebraska is as I'm aging, in case you guys hadn't noticed that, I'm aging. That's one of the few places in the United States I've yet to be is Nebraska. So welcome. Anybody else want to tell us about where you're originally from? Anybody else? Okay, good. Here's the next important question. How many of you are mechanical engineers? It would have been easier actually if I said, how many of you are, and I'll actually simplify this further. How many of you are not either mechanical engineer or just, what's our new one now, just engineering in general, something like that? How many of you are not that? Okay, I love how your hand is so tentatively going up, like I don't really want to tell you. What is it?
IE.
Oh, you're, okay, I didn't think about IEs. Did you say you? IE as well? How about you?
Electrical.
Okay. Anybody else? So I was an electrical engineering undergraduate when I was here. I was a double E undergraduate. I got my double E bachelor's. You know, the promise of, as we both know, the promise of electrical engineering is you got to really like mathematics, right?
Oh, yeah.
It turned out I didn't like it as much as I thought I did. So I would say I saw the light and I went mechanical engineering the rest of the way through my graduate program, but welcome. So next question. Well, was there anybody else that wasn't in the ME, IE, regular E club? And of course, double E. All right, here's the next question. You didn't think I was going to come and start this whole class off just by a bunch of questions now, did you? By the way, which is indicative of what this first day is going to be like today. We're just going to talk about stuff in general. This is an early engineering course, and if you read my syllabus already, you know that one of the most important things that we're going to do before we even kick this course in is get our heads in the right place for where we need to be. But I want to learn about you first before we delve on into that. Who in here is a senior? Already a senior? Senior 3, senior 2, senior 1? Good news. Okay, that's good news. Those people are usually the problem children of the Stags class. There's always those 2 or 3 senior 3s. It's like, oh man, I'm going to take that for an elective. I should have took that years ago, but I'm going to take it for an elective because I'm in my last semester and I just want a free grade. Those are the people who are usually like on 11th week Saturday, like, oh my God, I got a 27% in your class. What the F am I going to do? I would address that a few weeks ago if I were you. But they're usually the interesting ones. Believe it or not, when I asked who in here was a senior and nobody's hand went up, I got a good feeling about that. It's actually good news, good news. So, okay, so that means that most of you then are pretty early in your process. I'm guessing a lot of you are sophomore one-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. Oh, by the way, I want to say one last thing about seniors and senior threes and all that kind of stuff. Somebody about a year ago asked me, said, well, what did you take in your senior three semester when you were a student here? I have zero idea. I have no idea what I took in that semester. The only thing I remember was one of my courses had something to do with robots painting cars. And that was it. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you what courses I took my senior three semester. And for reasons that you'll see too as the morning progresses on, because I'm going to be telling you a couple of stories about those good old days, and one you'll see partly why I have not a whole lot of memory of those final weeks here. But anyway, I started to say, so all of you, or most of you, it sounds like, are pretty early in the process. Let's just do hands. How many of you are sophomore 1 or sophomore 2 in that ballpark? Do I have any freshman 2s in here? Freshman 1s? Okay. Good. Then you're right where we expect you to be. I'm guessing for a lot of you, this course here then, especially for you mechanical engineers, this course here is probably one of your, if not, your first truly analytical engineering course. It's the first of many. One of the things, and there's going to be a number of themes I'm going to talk about over and over again in this course. One of those themes is this course is a setup. It's setting you up for other courses coming down the road. In fact, your second engineering mechanics course, the one that naturally follows this one, which for most of you will be next semester, that course can be so easy, or it can be so impossibly hard. And a big difference maker is merely easy means you picked up a lot and understood a lot from statics. Hard means you did not. I'm going to give you some examples of that just so you know what I'm talking about. All right, so first of all, before we go deep into it, remember, today is not about introducing you to the course. We're going to talk about introduction to the course when we get together next, which I guess is Monday, right? We'll talk about that then. The rubber will hit the road after we do that. But today's just kind of the high generalities, and again, more of the philosophies than anything else. But I want to tell you just a little bit. I don't need a show of hands for this, but I'll bet you, if I asked you all, by a show of hands, how many of you, when taking a flight, how many of you would prefer the wing to stay on the airplane when you're 5 miles up in the air? I don't need a show of hands, although I'm guessing most of you would go along with that one. That's engineering mechanics. How and why would anybody have any level of confidence that we're going to take a machine the size of sometimes several houses, make that thing go 500 miles an hour with 7,000 gallons of jet fuel under your ass, 5 miles up in the sky? How in the world does that even work, and how should we have any confidence at all that things like the wings are going to stay attached? My wife and I, we fly from time to time. My wife hates flying. You know what she hates about flying? Turbulence. Of course, with turbulence, we're shaking around a little bit. Now, I challenge you, by the way, to drive anywhere in your car, roll down the window, stick your arm out the window and see if you can hold your arm still. You can't. Why? Turbulence. Those machines are designed so those wings keep a death grip on that fuselage through all of that. But we only have that knowledge and that confidence because we understand engineering mechanics. How many of you, living here in the wintertime of good old Flint, Michigan, how many of you would prefer, and again, I don't need a show of hands here because I already know what the answer is going to be, how many of you would prefer the building in which you're living, prefer the roof on that to stay above your head when it comes up a great big snowstorm and there's 12 or so inches of snow sitting up on top of your, I started to say on top of your window, on top of your roof? Now again, I'm guessing the majority of you would be like, I think I'd rather the roof be up there than sitting on top of me.
Entirely depends on if those steam heaters in Thompson Hall are cooking me alive.
Oh, dude, you have no idea the stories I can tell you about that in Thompson Hall. So freshman 1, I'm in unit 44, I think it was, 44 and 45, I can't remember, they were side by side. One was guys, one was not. And so, so get this, how many of you can imagine this? And this was before, I'm not even sure air conditioning was invented then, but no air conditioning whatsoever, do they have air conditioning now? Somebody said that they do, but it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we're at. It's there, but it's half-assed at best, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So imagine it's not there at all. So summertime, freshman 1, it got brutally hot up there, and me and one of the guys that lived a couple of the doors down from me decided we were going to, and get this, we were going to take the mattresses off our beds, shoot them out the windows down to the ground. Now, at that time, if you guys follow behind the building we're in right now, we know that the driveway goes out like this. There's the pavilion way back there, and then that exits out onto whatever this road's currently called nowadays. Almost close to the exit of that back then, there used to be a bunch of trees back there and a few picnic tables. So me and my friend dragged our mattresses after we tossed them out the window, dragged them out there and put them on top of those picnic tables and decided that was where we were going to sleep that night, which we did until about 2 o'clock in the morning, where a then GMI, this used to be called General Orders Institute, GMI, a then GMI security guard woke us up at about 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Do you young men understand where you're at?" He's basically telling us, it's Flint, man. You guys want to like wake up and see the morning? You're not going to if you stay out here much longer. So, but you know what? Compared to the heat of that, yeah, we were more than happy to take that chance. And here I am, of course. So, but now, look, most of us would be cool with the idea of that snow-loaded roof staying up there. Why? Why in the world? Why should we have any expectation whatsoever to think that that's going to work that way? The answer is engineering mechanics. Just like driving over a bridge or walking over a bridge. I'm thinking most of us, when we're crossing some kind of a bridge, just the other day I crossed the bridge over the Ohio River, Louisville, Kentucky. If anybody's driven over that one on Interstate 65, beautiful couple of bridges over there. But I couldn't help thinking to myself, I would really appreciate it if this bridge would stay intact until I get over there on the other side. I didn't really at the moment feel like taking a swim in the Ohio River. Why should we expect that? Engineering mechanics. Now, I could spend the rest of our time together today going on and on about this, but I've made the point. Engineering mechanics are everything. Look at this table right here, the chair you're sitting on. Think about these things so you can kick these things out of the way. I look at that table right now, and I think to myself, well, if for some reason I decide to park my carcass on top of that table, I got a decent chance that it's not going to collapse. So sit down right here, taking a risk, don't you? Because we buy these things at Goodwill. So far, so good. I just plopped a couple 100 pounds down on this tabletop and no catastrophic failure just yet. Why? Engineering mechanics. Now I look at something like this and I think, okay, now that table has a support beam right here, a couple of places that are articulating with the floor right there, and I got the same thing going on down there, and there's some structural mechanics between here and there underneath the tabletop. How important are those things? Well, I think we all know the answer. If we were to take this thing that I'm kicking right now and replace that, let's say we cut that out there and we decide we're going to make an equivalent of that with Play-Doh, then I think if we make it with Play-Doh or marshmallows or something like that, I think we all have a pretty good sense, good old common sense, which, by the way, don't let me forget to talk about common sense. That's a big thing. Common sense tells us if we do that and then I go and plop down the carcass on top of that again, now I have a much greater chance that I'm going to kiss the floor. It's statics. It's statics. We set the stage. We set the stage. If I climbed up on top of that table right now, and I stood in the middle of that table right now, which means I'm applying 160, plus some, pounds of force in the middle of the table right now. Would you listen to the voice of common sense whispering in your ear right now that says, whatever my force is, the weight that I'm imparting on this table because I've decided to climb up and I'm standing on this table right here, would the voice of common sense say to you, now let's just make the math easy, let's say there's a couple 100 pounds of force right here, would the voice of common sense say to you that if I'm standing right smack in the middle of this thing here, that of the 200 pounds of force that I just added, about 50 of it's going to be on that foot, about 50 of it's going to be on that foot, about 50 of it's going to be on that foot, about 50 of it's going to be on that foot. Would the voice of common sense say that's true to you? Why not? It should. If you think about it, if we add a force to something, doesn't that force have to be distributed in some equal and opposite way? Old man Newton told us that a few hundred years ago, right? So if I add 200, I've got to react with 200. And that reaction, if I'm right in the physical middle of that table, should be reasonably distributed in an equal way among these 4 points. So the voice of common sense would say, yeah, okay, that's legit. Now, why am I making a big deal out of that? Because throughout this course, the next course, and courses that are going to happen several years up the road for you all, there's always going to be that tendency to be so happy that you merely made a calculation and my calculator says this is what the number is going to be, and you write it down and you never even stop and say, hey, voice of common sense, does that make sense to you? Let me give you the example of what I'm talking about. Let's leave statics. Let's pretend we're seniors. One of the courses I teach at the senior level is called heat transfer. Heat transfer is nothing more than understanding the transport of thermal energy. If in this room right now, if suddenly our fine HVAC system started kicking out heat, we would want to understand, well, how is that going to affect the room? Now, voice of common sense says it's going to warm up the room. But if we want to get a little bit more meticulous in that, we can figure out, okay, well, all right, it means we're going to see more warmer temperatures there over time. We know that that's going to blow down, diffuse. You know, we get into those kinds of details. Another one, if we want to stick to the engineering mechanics, portion of that, let's go back to that airplane again. We were just thinking about a few minutes ago. Man, think about this. Did you guys think about this? Right now, at this moment, sitting down on the tarmac at Detroit Airport, there's a jet that's probably going to be in the air in just a few minutes. Okay, we know that because that's pretty much status quo for Detroit's airport, right? Now, on a typical day, today not being overly typical, but let's say on a typical summer day, it's, I don't know, 80, 85, 90 degrees down the tarmac. We assume the plane's outer surface has been exposed to that for a good period of time, which means the plane itself, the outer portion of the plane, is probably about 80, 85, 90 degrees, somewhere in that ballpark. In just a few minutes, that plane is going to be, again, 40,000 feet in the air, and the air temperature up there is going to be somewhere around negative 100 Fahrenheit. Which means it's going to have a temperature change of almost 200 degrees in just a matter of a few minutes. If we don't understand how to manage that thermal energy change within that mechanical structure, then what reasonable expectation should we have that the plane's not just going to break apart from those thermal stresses and we're back to trouble again? That's why, by the way, as mechanical engineers, we study heat transfer. We fix those problems. We solve those problems. By the way, if anybody ever asks you, what do you do as an engineer? It's a real simple answer. We figure shit out. That's it. That's what we do. We're good at it, right? We figure things out. So in heat transfer, I ask my students in that class, every beginning of that class, I ask them the following question. In the room that we're in right now, would we all, so I'm going to teach you guys some heat transfer today. You're getting more for your money than you expected. In this room right now, would we all in here agree that the ambient air temperature is probably about 70-ish degrees Fahrenheit? Are we good with that? Okay. Do we all agree that that whiteboard that I'm pointing at right now has been in this room a little while? Yep. Therefore, does the voice of common sense that's on our shoulder right now, whispering in our ears, that voice of common sense saying, well, if the room's about 70 and that thing's been here a long time, then its surface temperature is about 70 as well. Are we all good with that one? Sweet. My core temperature on a good day is typically around 98 degrees Fahrenheit, which means that although my core is around 98, the surface is more like about 80, maybe low 80s, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe even 90. It's not 98 degrees right here. So I'm going to make the math simple. Let's say it's around 90. Okay? Surface temperature of my hand is 90 degrees. Surface temperature of the whiteboard, 70 degrees. Now, in heat transfer, I caution them that they're probably going to see this particular problem on a midterm exam. If I take my 90-degree hot hand and I apply it right there on this 70-degree board right here, and I leave my hand on there for, I don't know, let's say 5 minutes or so, right? 5 minutes or so. 5 minutes later, I take my hand off and I very quickly use a temperature probe, a surface temperature probe, to take the reading of the surface temperature of that whiteboard. Now, listen to the voice of common sense. Does common sense say to you that if my hand is 90 and that board is 70, and I put my hand on that board for 5 minutes or whatever, that the surface temperature of the board under my hand is probably somewhere between 70 and 90 degrees? Well, you guys just passed heat transfer. Good job. In fact, if somebody had said, I bet it's around maybe 80, low 80s, I would say, you're absolutely right. Of course, common sense tells you that. If I give that problem on a midterm exam in heat transfer, I fully expect to see about 10% of the answers that I get telling me that the temperature of the board under my hand would not be 80 degrees, it would instead be 80 million degrees. On what planet would this 90-degree hand somehow go over here, hold for 5 minutes, and then make the surface that, what, 2 or 3 times hotter than the core of the sun? There are no versions of that. So you have to ask yourself, okay, WTF, this is an engineering, like, official term, like WTF. What happened right there? Well, it's real simple. In doing that calculation, you have to pull data out of a number of property tables. We have to understand the properties of my tissue, of whatever the whiteboard's made out of, and all those property values are scaled, meaning that they're provided to you in tables, not in their actual values, but they've been actually multiplied by 1,000,000 to give you a number big enough that you can run your calculations. And then when you get done, you're supposed to take that 1,000,000-fold back out. And if you don't do that, well, guess what? Even though the voice of common sense is screaming in your ear, dude, it is 80 degrees, you're going to say, but my calculator says 80 million. Write that down. So one of the things I'm going to be working really hard with all of you as we go through statics is to let common sense help dictate your performance and what you do. We're going to be studying forces in systems. Forces. If I jump up on this tabletop and add force to this tabletop, and you're asked to figure out, well, what's the force on that foot right there? If your solution is reasonable, like, I don't know, my calculation said it was 62 pounds. Cool. Do you know that that's right? No. But should you reasonably expect that that's in the area that it should be? Sure. If, on the other hand, I plop up there and add a couple hundred pounds and your calculation claims that you now have 27.8 million pounds sitting on the bottom of this table, well, you can at least ask the question of yourself, does that even make sense? And more often than not, you're going to see, no, it doesn't make sense. So what do I do about that? I don't write it down. I go figure out what went wrong. And you can do it the same way. If I add a couple hundred pounds to the top of this tabletop right here, and my calculations claim that I only added 0.02 ounces of force down there on the foot, something went wrong. So we want to get really good at anticipating what kinds of forces we should get. When we get together on Monday, one of the very first things I'm going to do with you in this class is I'm going to show you the end. I'm going to show you where we're going. So you'll know what the long-term objective is, and then we're going to fill in the blanks that are going to get us there. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to show you a problem in which we're going to look at a mechanical structure, a machine specifically, in which, this is high tech, ooh, this is real high tech here, in which somebody is going to lift a handle up with 20 pounds of force, and we're going to crush a beer can. And we're going to ask the question of, if I lift on this handle with 20 pounds of force, how many pounds of force do I get on the beer can? Now, long before we would even analyze that, long before we've even seen the machine, you might think, well, okay, if you're applying 20 pounds of force, you would want more than 20 coming out of it, otherwise what was the point of the machine? You could just crush the can yourself with your 20. So greater than 20. If I lift up on 20 with 20 pounds of force on this handle, should I expect, like tens of thousands of pounds on the can? No. Maybe 100 or 2? Yeah. You see, even before you see the problem, even before you start analyzing the problem, it's okay and it's smart to get an idea of what you think you should be getting, and then let that guide your decision as to whether or not your analysis was accurate. We want to do that. We want to get out of the mode of, I don't know, I'm just doing my stuff, and I'm just going to take whatever the calculator says. It's 80 million degrees over there, I'll write that down. Well, if you get out of that mode here at the sophomore level, or whatever level you have to be at the moment, guess what the chances are you're going to make that problem, or make that mistake when you're seniors? Zippo. All right? So we're trying to get out of that mode of thinking right now. That's the play, that's the goal here, that's what we're trying to do. So we're going to spend a lot of time in this course answering the questions of how do I analyze forces in mechanical systems. But I also said a few minutes ago that this is the setup for more to come. And I mentioned the next engineering mechanics course. The next engineering mechanics course takes it to the next level. And again, I'm telling you this because I want you to know the relevance of what we're doing right now. Let's be truthful. It's hard to sit through any course when you don't know the relevance, right? In the second mechanics course, we're going to answer the question of, is that design right there adequate to hold up the reasonable amount of forces that I should expect on this table? Now, can I drive a D6 Caterpillar bulldozer on this and think it's not going to crush it? No. How many times do we expect to see something like that in our life? 0. On the other hand, if I load up several, I don't know, desktop PCs, a bunch of books, and I sit on the table and all that, should I reasonably want that table to stay intact and not collapse on that? Yeah. So how do I know that the thing that I designed right here and built in that table, how do I know it can support those forces? In statics, we're going to figure out what the forces are. In the next one, which is called solids, by the way, in solids, we're going to figure out, okay, can my design hold up those forces? And folks, you're going to love this one. Remember I said this can go really easy, it can go really hard? In solids, the way we determine whether or not, I'm giving you this as very high level, there's a lot more details in this, but just the high level stuff. In solids, the way we determine whether or not something is structurally sound for the forces that are going to be on it is we calculate something called stress. And if the stress on that object is less than an allowable stress, in other words, if I can have this much, and I've really only got this much down here, then I got every reason to think my design's going to be fine. On the other hand, if my allowable stress is here, and the amount of stress that I'm applying to it's up here, I've exceeded the allowable. I got no reason to think that's going to work. It really comes down to that. So the key now becomes, well, how do I figure out the stress thing? The most fundamental equation for calculating stress is nothing more than what I'm about to show you right here. Stress, given by any, some nomenclature, often it's that, is equal to nothing more than force divided by area. Okay. Most, if not all of you, could do that equation right there when you were in 4th grade. Stress is nothing more than force over area, and if that value of stress is less than a certain threshold, which just comes out of a table, then your design's good. Now you got to be looking at this and saying, dude, how can I go wrong with that? And by the way, what are those things? Well, force is force. Area depends on how you want to look at it. So in this case here, if I'm trying to crush down on this tabletop right here, the area that would matter would be if I were to cut this and then look at the cross-sectional area, which, just looking at that, it probably looks like something like this right here, but that would be the area that I need to figure out. So area is area. If it's a circular, let's say a circular column, it's the area of a circle, right? It's not hard. So if area is not hard, you gotta be asking the question, how can I screw this up? The answer, you don't know how to get force. So what could be a very straightforward thing becomes a very not straightforward thing if we don't understand how to calculate forces. That's the deal in this class. If we get good at it here, and I want you all to know, my goal for each and every one of you, when you leave this class, my goal for each and every one of you is that you confidently walk out of here, or let me say it differently, that you walk out of here with confidence that I know how to calculate forces. And also being cool with the idea that I may not get it right every time, but at least I will know the difference between BS and that's reasonable. That's that voice of common sense thing we're talking about. Because folks, I'm here to tell you right now, if you've got that confidence after 10-ish weeks of this course, that confidence will do nothing but grow over time. And if you think I'm as confident today on how I can do this versus where I was now 43 years ago when I was sitting in the same chair you were in, and I got a 95 in that course. I don't know how the hell I did that. I must have paid somebody off and I forgot it. My confidence then compared to where I'm at today, night and day, several orders of magnitude. Time is our friend. You just want to walk out of here with, I've got the seeds of confidence, and it will grow in time. That's my goal for everybody. I want everybody to have confidence coming out of here, and I'm going to lead you to that. That's what that's my approach to this course right here. By the way, you may have noticed that when I'm talking, I tend to not take breaths of air. Therefore, if you have a question or a comment you want to add or something like that, and you're waiting for me to shut up, you might as well just not wait, fire away. There's nothing I love better than interactive courses. Matter of fact, we already had a great one there when you were making the great point about time. You know, that took us down a rabbit hole that I thought was kind of fun, talking about the good old days of the residence hall. Anyway, but no, do that. Don't wait for me. So as I'm blah, 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 blathering away up here, if you got something you want to know, don't hesitate, just fire away. Love interactive courses. Hate, by the way, hate whenever we're in a course and you're that individual that's like, I don't want to ever interact with professors. I don't know, like professors are all evil and they're all psychos and I'm just going to keep my head down and never even look up. Now listen, man, if you're that way, you gotta understand, now we're actually here to do our best to help you. Now some of us don't seem that way, but I hope, at least in my case, I'm making the argument for you right now that I am here to help you succeed. That's all I care about. It's everything I care about. When we finally do start talking about the course, I'm gonna walk us through the syllabus and all that, just make a few comments on that. I'm going to try to make it very, very clear to you guys, and I want you to hear me right now. Zero in, come in close emotionally and listen to what I'm saying to you right now. I want everybody in this room to waltz out of here in 10-ish weeks. I say 10-ish because I have no idea how long this thing takes. I've lost track of what our semesters really look like right now. In 10-ish weeks, I want you all to walk out of here with an A in this course. But at the same time, I need you all to know I couldn't care less what you walk out of here with as far as grade goes. Do you know why? Because in my career, lengthy career now, in my lengthy career, I have seen a lot of people that can go through a course like statics, nail it, 100s on everything. And then when they're done, they don't know the business end of a claw hammer from its handle. And I've seen people struggle with statics to get a B, C, whatever. And a few years later, they're top of their game, leading whatever they're involved with from an engineering standpoint, best of the best. The point being, your grade has zero correlation to your capabilities. What you want in this course, and frankly all of your engineering courses, is you want capability. I want to be the person that gets hired by somebody someday, and they hired me because, man, that's my first job, and my resume said I did really well, I got a big GPA, blah, 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 and then a year later they're like, my God, this guy can't deliver on anything. You don't want to be that. You want to be the person that's like, well, I got this job, and I had my GPA, it was what it was, but I came in with a toolbox loaded with capability, and I hit the ground running, kicking butt on a daily basis, showing them what I can do. I created a track record of success. At that point, do you guys think there's a person on the planet that gives a rat's ass what grade you got in statics? There are none. Nobody. If you ever encounter somebody like that, they're nuts. Walk away. Nobody cares. It's all about your ability to deliver. So I want you to have the ability to deliver. And part of that is, again, being cognizant of what you're producing, your output, your outcomes. That's a big deal, huge big deal. And whether you do that in the guise of, yeah, I got an A in the course, or I got a B in the course, or whatever, it doesn't make a bit of difference. But I want you all to understand, I designed the course so that you all can also have the added benefit that you got a good grade. You guys are going to run into, if you haven't run into them yet already, you're going to run into professors like, it doesn't matter what I do, I can't satisfy this guy, and I'm going to be lucky if I get a C. Not here. I'm sorry that that's going to happen to you. It happened to all of us, folks. It just is what it is. Reality, this is reality. Doesn't matter where you go to college, doesn't matter what degree program you're in, none of that stuff matters. 80% of your professors are going to be routine, run-of-the-mill, they do their thing, you can work with them. 10% are going to be fantastic, 10% are going to be absolute psychos. You're going to run into those people. You know what you do? Shrug your shoulders, take whatever the psycho's going to do and move on. Don't worry about it. But take the capability. Every time you go into a class, ask yourself from the onset, what does this individual have that he or she can give to me to add to my toolbox? That's what we're doing here in statics. That's the goal. That's what this is all about. Any questions so far from anybody? I gotta do something I gotta do. Now, when I start walking through the syllabus, one of the things I'm gonna talk to you all about is the fact that I don't take attendance in this course. And that, by the way, that drives some people around here nuts. Oh, but we're a school, we should take attendance and know who's attending and who's not. No. But, not gonna do it. What's that?
We're paying to be here, it's kind of on us to make our.
Oh shit. Plus, by the way, I hope you don't mind the salty language from time to time. I try to stop it, can't. So anyway, plus, do you think the people you work for are gonna take daily attendance? I mean, in some jobs, yeah, but in leadership positions, no. And guess where you're all heading? Leadership positions. So it's up to you as engineering professionals. It's up to you to come to class for one really simple reason. Because you're smart enough to know that that's how I succeed. If I blow off classes, my chances of succeeding go down. So, okay, if this is third grade, I would take attendance all day long. Bobby, you here? Susie, you here? This ain't the third grade, people. This ain't the 14th grade either. Y'all graduated 12th grade a couple of years ago. You didn't go from there to 13th grade to 14th grade and so on and so forth like that. This is the real world we're starting to transition on into, the professional world of the engineering profession, which I'm gonna give a sermon on that in a few minutes. But to me, the idea of treating young engineering professionals like they're third graders seems really, really stupid. But if one of them gets away, we'll lose their tuition dollars. Not my problem. That was gonna happen anyway. But I am going to go through the list, which you might interpret as attendance, but it's not. I'm doing this because I want to say hello to you, and I want to get to know you. I want to start the process of getting to know you. By the way, I've looked around the room about 700 times right now, and I don't see anybody here that's had me as a professor before. Did I miss anybody? Anybody had me as a professor before, anything else? Okay, so I don't know a single one of you. So I just want to get to know you, say hello. welcome you. And, you know, you guys know how this goes. Oftentimes the name that's here isn't exactly what you want to be called. You know, if you've got a nickname you want to go by, or you're, I don't know, an alias because you're wanted in Utah or something like that for a crime, and just tell me what that is, and I'll write that down, and I will work at getting to know you by name. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm 61 years old, and I see a lot of people every semester, and as a result, I'm not promising I'm going to get to know you, but I want to. I'm going to try my best. So I'd like to start things off by saying hello to Lexi Baker. Where are you at, Lexi? Hello and welcome. And as I do this, just again, if you want to be called something different, say so. Say so. Or by the way, if I really screw things up with the name, don't hesitate to tell me. I want to try to get it right. Well, how about Felicity Bennett? Where are you at? Hiya, Felicity. Welcome. Now I'm looking for Olivia Buckner. Hi, Olivia. Welcome to you too. By the way, 3 females. I'm seeing a lot more. That's like about 2 more than the average we've seen over the last 20 years. So fantastic. Well, I know engineering's finally catching on, huh? So glad of that. So glad. How about Chris? Oh, hang on here, Chris. I'm gonna see if I can say this right. Chris Cuba.
It's Kushba.
Kushba. Kushba.
Kushba.
Kushba. I'm gonna write that down. Man. Hey Chris, welcome. Glad to have you. Now I'm looking for Malachi Day. Hi, welcome. Jack Fadul. Did I say it right, Jack?
Yeah.
Close. I like that station. Like, yeah. Good enough. Welcome. Trent Hawes. Where you at? Welcome, Trent. Let's see. Now I'm looking for Ethan Jackson. Ethan, it's good to meet you. Welcome. Okay. Is it Somok Collar? Did I say it right?
Yep.
No shit. Really? Okay. I usually screw up with like Bob Joneses and stuff like that, but welcome. Good to meet you. How about Miles Kempf? Miles, welcome. Sander Niss. Did I say it right, Sander?
Yeah.
Good deal. And welcome to you. Nate Lee. Nate, welcome. Good to meet you. Tyler, is it Leshuk? Leshuk? Okay. Let me just make a little note here. Okay. Welcome. Dylan, I'm gonna take a shot at this one. Limoges.
It's pretty close, yeah.
How close is it?
Right.
Dang. I'm on a roll, and welcome to you. Good to meet you. Let's see here. How about Dominic, is it Mahan? That's it. Sweet, welcome. Reagan McBride. Did I say it right, Reagan?
Yep.
Okay, good. Sometimes it's Regan, right? Reagan, good deal. And welcome. Okay, I just want you to know, this is what's given to me. I don't know if I got this right, but I'm given Junior Moito. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
It's Junior?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Welcome. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Evan Muchler. Did I get it right, Evan?
Muchler.
Muchler. Good. Nice to meet you. How about Aiden O'Neill?
Hey.
Aiden, good to meet you. Welcome. Eliana Reed. Did I say it right?
Yeah, no.
Welcome. Good to meet you. Josh Richardson. Josh, good to meet you and welcome. Nathan Schaffner.
Hi.
Hey, nice to meet you. Nathan Smith, and welcome to you. Trent Swales. Welcome, good to meet you. Gabe Twiss. Got it right, Gabe? Yeah. Good deal. Zach Vickers. Zach, welcome, good to meet you. Aaliyah Washington, welcome, good to have you. Ginger Yang, Ginger, welcome. Is there anybody here that you're here but you're not on my list? Catch me afterwards, I get that list, okay? And I assume you've registered. Anybody else? Good deal. And I gotta be honest with you guys, that is the first time in a long time I went through a list with this size of a class where somebody wasn't here. So that's awesome. It is great meeting each and every one of you. And again, as I've already kind of laid out here, I think you've already got a general idea of where I want to take the course and what I'm trying to accomplish for you. But let me walk through just a few odds and ends from my syllabus, and we'll close out the day with this. By the way, one of the things I do want you to know, the clock up here shows that we're about 50 minutes into this. I've been around here a long time, as you all know. I've seen a lot of changes here at the good old General Motors Institute, then GMI, then EMI, then Kettering University. Some of them have been smart, some of them have been profoundly dumb. One of the profoundly dumb ones is the 2 hour and 5 minute block of lectures. Do you know why? Because I know, and you know as well as I do, I got your attention for about 45 minutes if I'm really good at entertaining you. If I'm not, then that's more like 15 minutes. It's just one of those things that we, believe it or not, I can tell you this story some other time, I don't want to waste time with it today, but I can tell you this if you want to hear it. We actually did that as a marketing play. We thought it'd make us more marketable if we changed our courses around that way. Didn't seem to work, but really, really foolish. I commit to you all that I am going to do my best to download the information that you need to know and help you with just the fundamental understanding of that. And you will hear me say this over and over again, the fundamentals. The fundamentals are the things that matter. 97% of everything we'll ever encounter in our career can be solved with the fundamentals. My heat transfer book, just as an example, my heat transfer book has 900 pages in it, and I tell those students on day one, 900 pages in the heat transfer book, about 40 of them matter. I know that if I get you good at the fundamentals of those 40, you'll figure out the rest. I know that, and I've proven that over the years. So in these short semesters of 2 hour and 5 minute blocks twice a week, my commitment to you is I'm going to focus us on the fundamentals. I want you to get good at the fundamentals of engineering, mechanics, and statics, because I know if we do that, you're going to succeed. And if there's some bizarre, exotic thing you need somewhere, in the future, no problem. You'll know where to find it. You'll know how to find it, look it up, and figure it all out. Not worried about that. But we're going to do that on a typical day in about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Maybe some days a little bit less, maybe some days just a little bit more, but an average about 120. Average about 1 hour and 20 minutes, which means we're going to be done early, which on every day we'll be done early. I'm not going to keep you here the whole 2 hours and 5 minutes, which most people usually appreciate the heck out of that. And it also means too, if there's things we want to talk about afterwards, like, hey, I'm working this, not really figuring it out, man, you're so welcome to ask me right then, no problem at all. Here for you if we need to do that. So I want you to have that perspective. That's the way we're going to do things right here. So if you've read the syllabus already, if you've had a chance to look, if you haven't, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to look at the syllabus, please do take a couple minutes just to breeze through that. You'll learn a little bit about me and my background, what I do. You're going to also find out that my office is here in this building, second floor, right down there, almost to the southwest corner of the building, 2245. That's where you pretty much will never find me. Because I am, as my syllabus indicates, I have a few little hats that I wear. I am not always here. I'm sometimes at Michigan State. I'm often off on business endeavors as I'm involved with a bunch of things outside of here, which basically means that I'm here to deliver lectures, and then that's it. Now this semester is, by the way, a little bit different because I got you guys at 10:15. I got my other section of this at 3:35. Oh, by the way, I should remember this too. I am always aligning the lectures so that whatever you guys hear at 10:15, the 3:35 folks are going to hear the same thing. All right, it's always aligned. If something happens and I got to cancel your class, I'm canceling those guys too because I want to get out of alignment. All right, which means if at any time, if something's going on, you can't come to this class here, but you want to come to the 3:35, feel free. It's the same room. There should be plenty of seats. You guys are the bigger of the two classes, so there's always going to be room for you. You're absolutely more than welcome to do that. I've actually had people who basically say, hey, do you mind if I just come to the 3:35 instead? Yeah, no problem. And there's going to be people in 3:35 that's going to want to come in here. I don't care. It doesn't make a bit of difference. All right, so we can do that. Anyway, yeah, you're not gonna find me up in the office very frequently, folks, because I, have other things going on, and I'm just not sitting around, although this time, like I started to say, I will be there between this lecture and the 3:35. If you need something, let me know. Pop by if you want to. Doesn't mean I'll necessarily be able to talk to you at the moment, because I might be in the middle of a meeting or a call or something like that. But you're always welcome. At the end of the day, though, you guys know that the university has a policy we're supposed to post office hours. I don't. Matter of fact, they finally changed it in recent times where they let us now to simply say by appointment only. It used to be that even though it was by appointment only, we still had to put down like, well, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock on such and such days. And I would literally come in and tell my students, hey, you guys saw my office hours are like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'll never be there. And it's like, dude. But it's a simple value proposition right here. It's real simple. Folks, if you need me for anything at all, anything, course related or something's going on you want to talk to me about, otherwise, I'm here for you. If you want to catch me right after class, we got time. If you want to talk to me in the office, cool. All I'm going to ask is just you tell me a good day for you, and I'll tell you a good day for me, and we'll make it happen. Just do it by appointments that way. Part of that goes to that professionalism thing that we're going to talk about, that I'm going to give, again, a sermon on here in just a few minutes. It boils down to this. And man, I want you to hear me on this one. I want you to, again, draw in close emotionally here to what I'm about to say to you all. If you are not aware of this just yet, you need to understand that what you all are embarking on, the engineering profession, is one of the elite professions. Not everybody's cut out for it. Outside of the work that I do here, I work with a lot of medical individuals. I do a lot of surgical work, medical device design, those kinds of things. I have worked with in my career a number of physicians, and by the way, if you got physicians in your family, maybe mom's a physician, dad's a physician, whatever, I'm not saying a single thing bad about physicians whatsoever, not at all. Oh my gosh, those are dedicated, hardworking people. If you think you want to be a physician growing up, better get yourself ready to work. But I've had 2 physicians. One was actually my personal physician that started off in engineering school, flunked out, went to med school, and became a great physician. Engineering's not for everybody. The fact that you're even here right now means that you are capable of being a member, and I'll take it a step further, a leader in this elite profession of ours called engineering. And if you think about other professionals that you've encountered in your life, your physician, for example, the lawyer that's going to get you off that rap. How many of those people are sitting around in their office on any given day at any time, waiting around on the chance that you might wander by and need something? I'm guessing 0. So the question becomes, why do we do that here in academia? Because academia is usually a collection of people that are not exactly tuned in with the real world, and we come up with some pretty bizarre ideas from time to time, and office hours are one of those. It's a complete waste of your time, it's a complete waste of my time. It's super simple. As professional to professional, all you gotta do is say, hey, Dr. J, I need you for about 20 minutes. What's a day that works? How about this afternoon? That kind of thing. That's what we're gonna do, all right? So if you look at my syllabus and it said office hours by appointment only, you know why now. You know the rationale behind that. I also have an email address right there, which I gotta be honest with you folks, I'm just being transparent. I've gotten a lot worse as the years have went by at checking my emails regularly. So if you email me something and I don't respond to you right away, you might want to, hey, a little nudge, hey, I emailed you, check it out. I will. If this was 10 years ago, I'm looking at emails like every 2 minutes. Today, it's like, once every couple of days, maybe. So, I'm just being honest with you. But you can email me there. You know where the office is. We're going to talk about office hours, again, as appointment only. And then there's the textbook, Engineering Mechanics Text by J.L. Merriam et al. And note that I put in my syllabus any edition you like. I know we live in a day and an age where it's questionable whether or not there's value in buying books. If you come to my office, you'll see that I have a bookcase in the office right now that is a collection of all kinds of books that I've had from courses and things over the years. And I've got some bizarre ones in there, folks. I mean, some bizarre ones for courses I took as a graduate student. And when I say bizarre, I don't mean I mean complex stuff, right? And over the years, I've collected, because every publisher on the planet wants us to use their book for our courses. So I got a big collection of e-transfer books. I got a big collection of statics books, and all that kind of stuff. And among my statics book collection is the book that I used 43 years ago when I took this course as a student. And out of all of the books that are in my bookshelf, when I need to refer to something I need to refresh myself on, to this very day, I still go and I pull my original book. Do you know why? Because that's the book I learned from. That's the book that 43 years ago, in my own hand, I wrote notes in there to myself that I would read years later that would remind me, all this stuff is BS, here's the only things I need to know. And I'd yellow highlight those things. Like, I want to work a certain type of problem. Here's the recipe, step 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what you need to do. I wrote those notes to myself way back then. And today, I can reach across my desk, pull that book out of my bookshelf, flip, flip, flip. Oh yeah, that's what I gotta do. Done. Now, a day is coming in your career where, again, people are going to judge you by what you produce. Your track record is what they care about. How would you like to be as an engineering professional? Do you want to be that person that's like your leader, boss, whatever you want to call it, says, hey, I need you to look into this. And you're like, okay, well, man, I got to study up on that. Might be a couple of weeks before I get back to you on that. Do you want to be that person? Or do you want to be the person that can reach over across your desk, pop out a book, flip, flip, flip? Yeah, gotcha. I got you an answer in a couple of hours. Well, I can tell you who's going to get the bonus at Christmas time. All right? You want to be that person. So, should you get a copy of the book? I'm going to leave that one up to you. But I can tell you right now, I sure as heck would. Now, here's the good news. Statics by J.L. Merriam. Merriam's been writing statics books since about the end of the Civil War. There's a bunch of versions out there. In fact, my original version from all those years ago is Merriam. I have no idea what version we're currently on. I promise you the current version is way overpriced. I also promise you that the fundamentals of statics were written mainly by Sir Isaac Newton about, 500 years ago, roughly 400 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark, and they haven't changed. So it doesn't make a bit of difference what version of the book you've got. The fundamentals are the fundamentals. I would want you to get one from Merriam. We chose it because it's the best. At least in our opinion, it's the best. It's the one we think best serves you. But if you had a choice between, well, I can go out and buy the newest edition right now for $200,000, or I can go buy like a 4th edition for $2.95. Guess what I'm about to do? I'm about to spend $2.95. Get it, have it. It's a great thing to put in your toolbox. It's up to you, of course, but man, I would do it. And there's always that argument, well, I can always have electronic copies. Where's that going to be 30 years from now? Who knows? So yeah, I would do that, but again, get any old edition you want. Now, know this though, everything we're going to study out of that book, including problems I'm going to make available to you. I've got the problems already taken. I've got them all written up. I've got what I call guidance documents for every one of them, where here's the problem, here's the stuff you need to think about, here's the takeaways, here's the steps to solving it. That's all going to go on Blackboard. So all of what you'll be looking for problems-wise is going to be on Blackboard. Therefore, again, it doesn't matter what version you've got, because let's face it, some of the versions of the books actually only changed by the following way. What used to be problem 7 in the previous version is now problem 9. Stuff like that. So, again, all this just adds up to you can get any old version you want, and it's going to benefit you. So I encourage you to do that. In my syllabus, I start off after that, and I talk about course description, and part of that course description is, again, just talking about the fundamentals, how this is a building block for other courses. I've already made that argument to you today. I've already laid out that intent of not just wanting to get an answer, but asking yourself, does my answer make sense? All right, so we've already talked about those things right there. But I skipped one of the very first things, and in my syllabus, I actually put this in red font. I'm actually going to read this to you verbatim. Statics is one of mechanical engineering's make or break courses. Don't be fooled into thinking it's anything short of critical to your engineering career. I have had people, and they are few and far between, folks, People come into this class and think, this is just a sophomore class, this can't matter. Oh man, does this class matter. It's everything. So much so, I want to give you the first of many stories. When I was in my PhD program in the 1990s, I was taking a course, I remember I said I was a double E undergraduate, right? I was taking a course in mechanical controls. And you know how much I knew about mechanical controls before I took that course? None, nothing whatsoever. But we were given a problem by that professor to model the mechanical control system, which was essentially akin to the cruise control in our car. And I can tell you that among the individuals that were in that class, all of us, PhD level students, remember these are classes that start with numbers like 800 and 900, you hope they never even go that high, but they do. Every last one of us had no concept of how to do this, none whatsoever, myself included, because I didn't even have undergraduate background. So I'm swimming in a whirlpool here trying to figure this one out. Folks, you know what I did? I punted. I basically said, I have no idea, but this is what I do know. I knew from my statics class, taken years before that, I knew how to draw a model of a mechanical system and draw the forces on that model, and then use some basic fundamental math that we're all going to learn here in just a few weeks to characterize that model. And I thought, maybe on a good day, if this professor has found some good weed before he grades this thing, maybe I might get a 2% out of this. So I did it. I used statics principles at that level to model what we were being asked to model. I was the only person in the class that got it right. And I had no idea what I was doing. So when we say statics is a make or break course, that means two things. Is it designed to weed out those of you that maybe this really isn't your bag? Yeah, it is. But is it also a course that by its nature, by its design, is going to empower and enable you to do a ton of things after this? Yeah, it definitely is. That second version, nothing but positive. Now that first version there, that one's a little troublesome. And this is where I get off the ship with some of my colleagues. It doesn't matter what university you go to, and I want you all to hear me on this one, hear me loud and clear on this one here. It doesn't make a bit of difference what university you go to. You're always going to find faculty that believe it's their duty to figure out how to get rid of you. I believe it's my duty to elevate you, to find out if there's anything you don't know, how do we fix that, and how do we elevate you? And I've had many times in my career where that was a difference maker. I want to give you just one example of that. One example. One of the very first things that we're going to study in here is how do you take a force, which is a vector quantity, it has a magnitude and it's got a direction. How do you take a force and resolve it into spatial components that coincide with a coordinate axis system? That's just a long-winded way of saying, if I got a force that's pointing off like that, well then what's the x component of that force and what's the y component of that force? That's what that is. Now if I put this on the board, that means that if I had a good old standard x, y coordinate system and I got some force going off like this, and let's say that that force is defined here by some angle with respect to the x-axis right here, the first thing that we're going to need to study and be really, really good at is how do I figure out what is basically the shadow of this force down here on the x-axis, what's that component, and what's its shadow back up here on the y-axis, that component. We're going to call this one fx, we're going to call this one fy. So now, a lot of years ago, folks, we had studied that, and I threw a little quiz. Threw a little quiz for my students, and it was, folks, you need to know this, it was exactly that. The only difference here is I made that 100 pounds, and I made angle theta 30 degrees. And the single question that was on the quiz was, what is the x component of that force and what's the y component of that force? Now I'm going to clue you in on the answer. And it's the beginning of something you're going to hear me say over and over and over again throughout this course. We look for triangles. In this case right here, I see how I can make a triangle just like that, where if you look at the legs of my triangle, this leg is the fx I'm looking for, this leg here is the fy that I'm looking for. So if I got a nice old right triangle like this, then most of us would quickly look at that and say, well, okay, the sine of theta, by definition, is the opposite leg of the triangle divided by the hypotenuse of the triangle. So you might look at this and say, well, this thing right here is going to be this force times the sine of theta, meaning that this is going to be 100 times sine of theta, which is, if theta is 30, that's 0.5, so there's 50 pounds right there. And this one right here is going to be this force times the cosine of angle theta. Cosine of 30 is about 0.866, about 86.6 pounds right here. Done, problem solved. Drop the mic. That was all the quiz was. And I had an individual who did not do well on it. In fact, she earned a 20% on the quiz, which is a mercy 20%, folks. It really was. Oftentimes, giving a low score like that is not meant to be punitive. It's more meant to be, you really need to talk with me, right? I don't want to make this close. I want to make it so bad that you need to talk with me. So, smartly, and hear me when I say this, smartly, that person came up and saw me after class. And I'm never going to forget what she said to me. She said, I need help. I have already taken this class once. I failed it. And I just did this and, well, like I said, we all know it didn't go well. And she said, I don't want to fail this again. I asked her, well, who'd you have the first time around? She told me the professor's name. It surprised me because that professor is a good one. He he's still with us. He's really good at helping you through the rough spots to figure out what's going on. And yet, he couldn't in this case. He couldn't solve the problem. And this individual is basically saying to me, I don't want to not succeed. Can you help me? I said, all right, let's figure this out. And so we started talking to her a little bit, and I said, okay, now you see how this just, if we take this one and this one, this one, you see how that forms a triangle? Yeah. Right triangle? Yeah. I said, okay, so now we've got this angle here, we've got theta. Now, tell me, and now obviously you all know, I don't have stuff written down, I got it written on the board right here. I said, now tell me how do we define the sine of an angle? And here's where I discovered the problem. How do we define the sine of an angle? That young lady's eyes glazed over, and she stared at something in the distance, and she said, SOHCAHTOA. I said, okay, stop there. There's the problem. How many of you learned trigonometry hearing about SOHCAHTOA? All right, like a lot of things in high school, quickly forget that. The problem with that is you're learning something that has fundamentals attached to it, and you're learning it by some little jingle, right? I said, no, just don't think of it that way. And then we spent the next 10 minutes just talking about the trigonometric identities, how you define sine, what does that really mean? What's the opposite leg? What's the adjacent leg? What's the hypotenuse? All that kind of stuff. Cosine, tangent, all that kind of stuff. We just spent about 10 minutes talking about that. And now, when that was done, I said to her, I said, okay, now, and I drew it out again. I said, now, here's your angle. How do you find the sine of the angle? And she said, well, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, which one's the opposite? Which one's the hypotenuse? All right, now let's write this into a little equation right here. And no surprise, there's no surprise here whatsoever, folks. She's like, oh, well, that's what it is. That's it. She went on and got an 86 in my statistics class, and that was including the 20. Hear me, she went on from that point and kicked ass. There was just one little deficiency, one little flaw. And when we fixed that flaw, all was good. So is this a make or break course? Uh-huh. Is this designed to weed people out? Yup. Am I going to let any of you weed out unless you just really want to? Nope. If you're hung up on something, let's talk. I've had people that did not follow that simple plan. I had one, and by the way, I want y'all to know something. Remember how earlier on I said I want y'all to walk out of here with an A? That's my goal for you. You need to know that if you don't do that, and even worse yet, if you somehow fail the course, I'm gonna be pissed at you for a long time. Don't come asking me for any letters of recommendation. That's the last thing you'll want from me. I'll be pissed off for years. I've had persons that did that did not succeed in the course. One came and took my course a second time around. We're halfway through it. And I find that person was still struggling. I finally said, why didn't you come and see me the first time around? The person said, well, I went to the ASC and I worked with the tutors. Meanwhile, Kettering pays me a handsome salary to help you out, and you missed me? Huh? Come and see me. I'm the one that can help fix your problems. And sure enough, that individual then started dialoguing with me and did perfectly fine after that. So yeah, come on and see me. I don't want this to ever become this course here should not be a hang up for anybody. Should not be a hang up for anybody. Let me revisit this so I'm not forgetting stuff. One of the last things I say in my syllabus too about that is the key to all this. The key to all this really truly is practice, folks. There's going to be many times throughout the course you're going to see me working problems up here on the whiteboard, and I'm going to make it look easy. In fact, I've been doing it 43 years. If I can't make it look easy by now, something's wrong, right? I've had people not do well when doing exams and stuff, and will say on the backside, I followed you in class, it looked so, I understood what you were doing, it looked easy. Yeah, but when you actually do it yourself, there's a difference between I can see what you're doing and that makes sense to me, versus I can now move a pencil or a pen and replicate that. You gotta practice, folks. You gotta do it. Do the problems. Now, an interesting thing, I mentioned about problems earlier on too. I'm not gonna, the problems I want you to work out of each chapter, I'm gonna be putting those on Blackboard. It's not a lot of them. There's those 2 buckets of philosophy there. It's like some professors like, well, the way to get them to do it really good is I'm going to give them 3,009 problems from chapter 1 and, make them do that and nothing else for the rest of their lives. Or there's the other bucket of philosophy, which basically says, I got like 6 or 8 problems from the chapter. I want you to get really good at those because if you can get good at those, I know you can handle anything else. I'm in that bucket. So there's just going to be a small handful of problems, but know that those problems are the representative problems I want you to be good at, right? So if you're hung up on those, talk to me. A little piece of advice too, just a thought. I started telling people about this 5 or so years ago, and it seems to have worked out really, really nicely, and that is this. How many of you have ever took a course, took a quiz or a test, thought you were ready for it, and then found out on the back end, it's like, oh my God, I wasn't ready for it. I'm still really good at doing stuff like that myself. Part of the problem is we tend to do the preliminary work with more of an attitude of I just want to get it done versus I want to understand it, okay? So a thing to consider is this. When you start working on problem sets from any chapter in this book, or frankly, anything you might be doing in the future, a way to attack that might be pick one problem. One that seems to be like really representative of what we're talking about in class at the time, and work that one problem. And after you've worked it out and you understand how you got where you wanted to go, put it away. Stop working on problems. And then do this. Come back about 2 days later and work the same problem again. And here's the thing. If you worked a problem and you understood it on Monday, and then you go and rework the same problem on Wednesday and you don't understand it, then you weren't ready for it. That's what happens to us on quizzes. It's like, I got this, I worked the problem, I'm good. And then you take a quiz like, oh my God, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, right? So in this scenario, you're testing yourself by working a problem, letting it rest for a couple of days, coming back and checking it out again. If you check it out the second time around, you totally got it, then yeah, you're ready. there's that approach, or there's I got 6 problems, I'm gonna spend Wednesday night, get these things done, yay, I'll move on to the next thing. That approach is not really the smartest approach. I would encourage you to consider the other thing that I was talking about. But I don't care if you do that or you do the other approach. Any approach is better than no approach, right? The no approach is I never did the problems, or worse, I cribbed them. Okay, folks. Somewhere in my syllabus, and I have no idea where, I'm not going to go look for it, somewhere in my syllabus I make the statement that goes something like this: I will use homework as a way of informing me on how to help you with problems with exams. Well, what do I mean by that? Number one, it's just like attendance. This is not grade school. I'm not collecting homework. I'm not grading your homework. Why? Because as engineering professionals, you don't need me to do that. As engineering professionals, you realize you're doing the homework for you, not for me. You're doing the homework because you know it prepares you, not because it gives you a grade. Who cares about the grade? We only care about the preparation. I know how to do this. I can deliver. I can build a track record on this. Who cares about the grade? So I'm not going to be collecting any homework. But, and by the way, I want to be blunt. Most people get that, they understand that, and they're mature enough to realize that that's not an excuse to not do it. It's like, I'm gonna do that because it's for me, it's not for you, right? But then there's that individual who will get, I don't know, 32% on a midterm exam, and they're gonna be up here the day after they get it back, and they're gonna be like, hey, professor, I got a 32%, and I studied really hard, and I knew what I was doing, blah, 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 blah. And the first words out of my mouth are gonna be, cool, show me your homework. You know how many deer in the headlights looks I've gotten when I do that? Or worse, I'll show it to you tomorrow. I didn't bring it with me. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. Okay, cool. And then tomorrow, I get a stack of homework that is pristine. Pristine. There's no erasure marks on it. There are no errors whatsoever. Now, how does one go from getting a 32 on a midterm to I did all the homework and it's pristine, there's no errors and there's no erasure marks or anything like that? That's when you look at somebody and it's like, man, you take me for a fool. Cribbit? If you think we can't figure that out, my God. Yeah, we can smell a crib a mile away. I'm not saying they're bad things, don't get me wrong, but they're tools, they're not answers. Okay, well, sometimes they're answers, I'll get back to that later. But the thing is when I look at your homework, I expect to see an absolute mess. If I don't see a mess, then something's wrong. I expect to see a lot of stuff crossed out. In fact, if I sat down today with the same homework problems I've been giving you guys for the last 30 plus years of teaching this class, even if I wrote it out today, I'd be making mistakes. Because you know what? You know how we're all good at making math mistakes, or at least we should be good at making math mistakes? Well, you get to be my age, you get better at it. I mean, I can make math mistakes with the best of them nowadays. So I'm gonna have all kinds of goof ups, right? And I'm gonna have all kinds of fixes. If your work doesn't have that, it's a dead giveaway. So now, if you show me a country fried mess of your homework, it's like, oh my God, dude, I will gladly help you. We'll figure out how to fix that midterm grade. But if you eat the midterm or the final, and it's like, oh, I got my homework, it's pristine, I'll be like, well, shit, sucks to be you, because I'm not gonna help you. You're not helping yourself, why should I help you? Help yourself, folks, help yourself. All right, so now, that was taking me a little bit off the track. In my, still watching that clock, in my syllabus, I go into, and this is the sermon on professionalism. I've already started, and by the way, I've been doing this, folks, for a lot of years with my class. I don't know how you're gonna respond to it. I know this much. I've had a lot of people, though, after this, walk out the door, stop by and say to me, thank you. We've never had a professor talk to us like that before. Treat us like we're professionals, not kids, not students. I've already talked about the engineering profession. It's an elite profession. It's not for everybody. The fact that you're here today, you should be excited. You should be proud. This is a profession that's going to carry you a long, long, long way in your career. And in pathways that you can't imagine. are coming for you. 11 years ago, I was running an FDA pivotal trial on a medical device. And I was in a meeting in Palo Alto, California. And in that meeting was myself. I was the CEO at that time of a med device company. There was another med device company CEO. There was a patent lawyer. There was a business lawyer. There was 2 physicians. There was a venture capitalist, and at least 1 or 2 other people that I can't remember now who they were. But a collection of all kinds of people. The meeting takes place, and after the meeting is over with, I overheard one guy say to another guy, he says, "Hey, what was your undergrad?" And this guy goes, "Oh, I was a mechanical engineering undergrad." The guy says, "No kidding, so was I." Somebody else overheard that. "Hey, I was a mechanical engineering undergrad too." Did I mention we're talking doctors, physicians, executive leaders, lawyers, financial types? Now you guys know where this is going. By the time we got around the room, every last one of the individuals in the room, except yours truly, was a mechanical engineering undergrad. I was not, I was a double E, right? But at that time I'm a mechanical engineering PhD, so close enough. I'll bet you most of those people when they were in engineering school didn't see it coming, didn't know they were going to become a physician. Maybe some did, maybe some didn't. I was in a meeting at Michigan State University. At that time they had 2 med schools there. Over the dean of med school talking about this one physician that they had in the current class of physicians. And he was talking about how this guy, he's like, this guy sucks. If you looked at his MCAT scores, we should have never let this guy in. He doesn't know anything about anatomy and physiology, biochemistry, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. And then he stops and says, "But he's the best physician we got in here right now, the best." Afterwards, I spoke to that dean. I said, "Hey, who's that guy you're talking about?" Seriously said that. "Who's that guy you're talking about?" He stops, he looked at me, he says, "You know who I'm talking about." I said, "I truly do not." He said, "It's that guy we got from Kettering. He was a mechanical engineering undergraduate, decided he wanted to be a physician, and he doesn't know squat about anatomy and physiology and biochemistry. We didn't have our programs we had today back then. Didn't know squat about those things. His MCAT scores were atrocious, but as a mechanical engineer," and we talked about this early on, what are we good at? Figuring stuff out, right? As a mechanical engineer, he had a unique ability to see every medical problem as like 1,000 dots in front of him, and he could figure out how to connect those dots. Best physician they had. You have no idea where this elite profession of engineering is going to take you. And the quicker you put yourself in the mindset of this is where I'm at, this is who I am, the quicker you get into that mindset, the greater your chances are going to be of not only succeeding in that environment, but thriving in that environment. I'm betting most of us right now already have co-op jobs. If not, it's coming. That means that 6 months out of the year, you're already working as a practicing individual in the elite profession of engineering. "Oh yeah, professor, but my co-op, they just got me photocopying papers." Whatever, it'll change, don't worry about that. But you're already there. So now the question becomes, would you prefer anybody like me or anybody else in this university, would you prefer us to say to you, "Yeah, you're just a sophomore, you're a student, you're in the 14th grade, kid"? Or would you rather, "You're an engineering professional just like I am. You're an engineering professional just like I am. We're all engineering professionals in this elite profession of engineering. Which one do you want to be?" I'll bet there's not a person in the room right now that's like, "Dude, I'm really good with being thought of as a kid anymore." I'm guessing not if you are, I'm guessing there's not a whole lot of you in here that want to be that. But then the question becomes, what's the difference? That's why I put in my table here in my syllabus to just kind of do a little compare and contrast between professionals and students. And I am doing this with a purpose. I want you to know this, folks. I am doing this with a purpose. I'm going to walk through these things. Professionals start with thinking of themselves as professionals. They see themselves that way. They conduct themselves that way. And as a result, if you're conducting yourself that way, then other people will see you that way too. Students, on the other hand, graduate high school and they treat college like it's just the next grade in school. There are people in colleges all over the world right now that are 20, 21, 22 years old, perfectly fine with the idea of, I'm in the 14th, 15th, or 16th grade. School is school. Fine. I guess some degrees that might work, doesn't work in engineering. Hear this one, folks. Professionals know that their attitude in life determines their altitude in life. Be hungry. Be hungry for every opportunity that you've got to gain something from your professors, from people that are working with you. These are the people that you will build your experience, your expertise, your base of knowledge from these people. If you view your professors as, I can't wait till this guy shuts up so I can get on and do something better, my soap opera's on or something like that, that's not the right mindset. You don't want that. Look for what you can get from us. Have the right attitude. And I would throw into positive attitude. One of the things that changed my life personally was when a very old relative of mine, before he passed away at 90 years old, taught me the importance of seeing everybody in the room as the most important person in the room. Total change. Total change. Before that's like, I'm your professor, my poop don't stink, good luck. Nope. I see each and every one of you right now as the most important person in this room, and I want the best for you. I hope I convey that in the way that I talk with you, that I articulate with you. But you will do well to have the same mindset. See everybody that you work with as the most important person in the room. Want to have a relationship that you can talk with that person, gain from that person. It's the smartest thing you'll ever do for yourself, folks. Your attitude in your life determines your altitude in your life. Now, students, on the other hand, just heard what I just said. And with the wisdom of a 5-year-old think, this is bullshit. Okay, fine, that's what you think. Professionals ask, what can I gain from this course? You walked into Stacks this morning. I hope you came in here with the, I wonder what I'm going to get out of this course. Students, on the other hand, and by the way, I'm the first one here to tell you, this was me, okay? I'm not preaching on what I was then. I'm preaching on what the way I think now. Students, this is me, are only interested in grades, partly because we were kind of groomed that way, right? And they often question the relevance of courses. You know, the old, I don't use this stuff in my co-op, so why do I need to take that course? As an electrical engineering undergraduate, I had to take heat transfer. I could have easily said, I don't do this in my co-op. I'm a double E. Why am I teaching taking heat transfer? Because the door that I walked through about 12 years after that made me a professor of mechanical engineering teaching heat transfer. I didn't see it coming. I did not see that coming. By the way, I want to say one other thing about altitude or attitude and altitude in life. In, I think, my early senior semesters, I took a course with an individual, and by the way, back then, good old General Motors Institute was cutthroat. This was like the stairway to great things at General Motors, and there was nothing better than getting somebody else kicked off the stairs that you could climb the ladder faster by throwing somebody else off. This place was cutthroat. That meant few people were out here trying to figure out how to be a support mechanism to you or helpful to you. Yet I will never forget this one individual in a course I took about senior year. She was a year older, a year ahead of me, so somehow this things aligned. She was so different. She was completely the opposite of the typical student in that she was friendly to everybody, helpful to everybody, had a great attitude towards everybody. Unlike her peers, myself included, who were always, very standoffish, like, I see you are teetering on the edge, can I help push you off? She was the exact opposite individual. And in the theme of what I'm sharing with you now about we don't see our future coming. We don't make decisions on, well, I'm not doing this today, so I don't need this now. Hey folks, what are we doing in co-op right now? What are we doing in co-op right now? If you think you're going to be doing that 5 years from now, I'll tell you, you're wrong. You have no idea what you're doing 5 years from now. That young lady, Mary Barra, went on to become the first female CEO of General Motors and is still the CEO of General Motors. What made Mary different? Mary's attitude in life helped her achieve her altitude in life. Don't lose sight of that. Going on, here's an important one. Professionals do nothing to divert their attention while in the learning environment. While students, and hear me, because I know what's going on right now, look at laptops or phones during lecture, they answer text messages during lectures, etc. Folks, nothing says I am immature and not a professional more than this. And I know there's laptops open all over the place right now. Here's what I want to encourage you. I know it's the year 2025, I'm fully aware of that. There are folks who are going to use the electronic devices to help them by taking notes and that kind of thing, and then there are folks who are going to use electronic devices to divert their attention. I can only tell you this. In the last 5 years, I would bet you 90% or more of the individuals who have come to me for help because they're not succeeding, the very first thing I will say to them is, I watch you in class, and I notice you're watching your laptop. I've actually watched you laughing at stuff you're reading and seeing on your laptop. Yeah, I know I shouldn't do that. Then why are you? I mean, you're here worried that you're not going to have a good outcome, but you're letting yourself be distracted. Is that professional? I actually had one person say to me, yeah, but my boss does it where I work. Doesn't make your boss professional. Makes your boss a shithead as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not going to freak out about it. If you want to keep your electronic devices open, feel free. If you're using them for taking notes and stuff, man, that's awesome. But if you are foolish enough to let unnecessary distractions hamper your abilities to succeed, that's on you. It's not on me. It's not professional. I don't think you should do it. And it is hard, folks. It's really, really hard. Other courses I've taught, I've had people fail the courses, and literally at the last day, I've had them come to me. It's like, is there anything I can do? And one case I'll never forget was a couple of individuals who would literally sit while I was lecturing, and between the two of them, they had one laptop open, and they would always be looking at the laptop, laughing at stuff. No idea what I was talking about. And the answer is, no, there's nothing you can do. You did it to yourself. So my encouragement is, don't be distracted. It's a fool's errand, folks. Totally unnecessary, but your call. Professionals view homework as an opportunity to build skills and confirm preparedness. It's not a punishment, it's an opportunity. Students, on the other hand, just want to get the homework done. They only care about getting the answers versus understanding methods and the principles. But I've already talked about that. We are going to spend so much time and effort in this course focusing us on how do we go about getting the answer. Not what was my answer, but what was my methodology. Because if we get good at the methodology, I promise you the answers will come. But if you're never good at the methodology, you got no chance. Professionals want to understand their mistakes and learn from them. I took an exam, I got an 80%. Woohoo, I got an 80. The class average was 62. I was 18 points above the class average. My life is good. All right, well, what's the 20% you don't know? I don't know, I got an 80. It was above the class average, it's all good. Yeah, I know, but what did you not know? Who cares? Yeah, you care. Because the stuff you didn't know is going to accumulate. It's going to kick your butt later on down the road. So learn from your mistakes. Own them, embrace them. It's the smartest thing you can ever do. Students, on the other hand, they just want to move on, wishing they got a better grade, but doing nothing to make that happen. Is that you? Here comes the favorite one. Now, you know what? I'm going to come back to this one. Let me say this one for last, because that's going to be the closing argument here in today's today's session. Come back to that one. Professionals know that in addition to being teachers, your professors are professional mentors and thought leader experts in their field. Students, on the other hand, hear this one out, folks. Students, the student mindset is, I hope I get the easy props because that's where the easy grades come from. Okay. 2 thoughts on that. Number 1, easy grades. This course is designed to give you an easy grade. But Professor, you just said it's a make or break. Yeah, I know. But I am going to be meticulous in telling you, here are the important things. These are the things you need to know versus, that's nice, but don't worry about that. I'm going to show you exactly the skill sets you need to develop. And if you do that, you're going to get a good grade. You're going to do well. It's designed to do that. It's the individuals, and those people are few and far apart, but it's the individual that's like, I hear what you're saying, Professor, but there's got to be some way I can F this all up. Sure. Don't focus on what we talk about. Let yourself be distracted. Don't come to class. Don't ask questions. Don't care if you didn't, I missed something there. I don't know. I have no idea what he's talking about, but it'll come to me eventually. Don't do that. If you focus yourself on what I'm going to lay out for you as this is the pathway to success, you're going to do great. You're going to do absolutely fantastically. That was point number 1. I got to reread it to remember what point number 2 was. Oh yeah, it was in addition to being teachers, we're professional mentors, blah, 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 blah. Another story. I'm loaded with stories, folks. In the year 2000, I was doing some work in neuroscience, some research work in neuroscience, and a professor of mine from the EE department, who's still here, believe it or not, he's got to be in his upper hundreds by now. A professor that I had when I was an undergrad, by the way, he calls me up and he says, hey Jeff, I hear you're doing some work in neuroscience. Yep. He says, I've got this senior 3 EE, her name is Nicole, and Nicole thinks that she might want to study neuroscience when she graduates. Would you be okay with talking with her, and maybe if you got something going on that she might benefit from, let her shadow you around a little bit? I'm like, absolutely, send her on over. Now, she's a senior 3. We're 4 or 5 weeks into the semester. We're almost halfway through, and Nicole comes over. We meet, we talk about this, and I was doing some work in electroencephalography, which, is right in the wheelhouse of a EE. So she shadows me around for a few weeks, and by the time we're done with this, Nicole says, you know what? I really do want to study neuroscience in my graduate program. I want to go to a graduate program and study neuroscience. Well, fantastic, Nicole. And then she says, but I'm a EE. So, well, do you think I can get into a good school? Yeah. Like maybe Eastern Michigan? I thought you said a good school. There's a secret, by the way, folks. I don't want to delve into it now, but I'll be happy to explain to you in more detail a little later on. There's a secret to graduate school. Graduate schools let you in because they see you as a good investment. Graduate schools will always put money into you. Research assistantships, teaching assistantships are going to put money into you. If they think you're not going to succeed in the program, they're not going to invest in you. Why? Because no investor on the planet wants to lose their money, right? Simple. But if they look at you and say, yeah, you've got the drive, you know how to make stuff happen, you're in. That's the secret to grad school. For those of you that may decide to do that in your future, whoever you're talking with, convince them, if you let me into your program, I will succeed. Let them know I'm a good investment, you're in. And I shared that with Nicole. I said, Nicole, there's not a program on the planet you can't get into. Aim high. And she says, do you think I can try an Ivy League school? Go for it. Nicole applied and was accepted into the neuroscience program at Yale University, at Yale. And away she goes. She graduates, off to Yale. Good luck, Nicole. That same professor pulled me over not long after that, a year or so after that. He says, hey, I've heard from Nicole. Good, how's she doing? Well, I'm going to summarize it. It turned out neuroscience wasn't what Nicole really wanted after all. She wanted to be a neurosurgeon. So Nicole applied to Yale's medical school and was accepted and was at that time studying neurosurgery. I said this was the year 2000 when this all started, so that's a year or two after that. Fast forward to about 8, 9, 10 years ago. I'm walking in the hallway of the academic building over there, and that same professor walks by me and says, Jeff, I got a letter from Nicole. I said, really? He said, first of all, do you remember Nicole? Yeah, I remember Nicole. I got a letter from Nicole. I said, what's up with Nicole? She just accepted a fellowship in neurosurgery to Oxford University. That's the pinnacle. Nicole never saw it coming. We don't see the opportunities coming for us as engineering professionals, but they come. Our job right now is to put tools in our toolbox that give us the ability to walk through the doors when those doors present themselves. If a door of opportunity presents itself, you want to be the person that knows how to open it and walk through. When I say see your professors as mentors, realize we can bring a lot to your table, more than just teach. Okay, know that. That's the professional mindset. I know I'm getting out of this here, a little bit tight on time here. We're going to do it. Engage your professors, engage us. Talk to us about if I need help, you need help, guidance, matters, whatever. I don't care. You want to talk politics? Fine. Call me up, talk to me. I don't give a toot. We'll talk about anything you want to. It's part of the gig, part of what we want to do for you guys here. Students, on the other hand, oh my gosh, they talk to their professor only after it's too late. Oh, professor, it's the last day of class. I got a 51. What can I do? Nothing. You could have talked to me 6 weeks ago. On academic honesty, professionals recognize deficiencies that might compel them to cheat, but they choose professional integrity. Oh my gosh, you cannot lose anything more important to you than your integrity as a professional. Never ever do that. They choose professional integrity and they address their deficiencies, and we all know the story on that. Students, my gosh, I'll cheat to solve a deficiency today, but I'm just not mature enough to see how that's going to kick me in the butt in the future. Hope you're not in that category, folks. This is not good. My last, the last one is the money shot here. Professionals, hear this, folks, drawn. Know their future. Professionals know their future, and they always uphold the dignity and honor of the engineering profession. A student, on the other hand, a student needs to ask themselves right now, am I a professional? Or am I still just a student? I think you're all here because you're engineering professionals. Welcome to that. Now the final story. And as I say the final story, I do need to look and see if there's anything else in my syllabus that I do need to talk about. I'm going to come back to the final study. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here. I hope you've already figured this out. I'm here to help make this class relevant to you, make you understand the importance of it, set you up for good outcomes in the future. From time to time, do things that make the class interesting, sometimes entertaining. You never know, I might just wheel off a funny story from here to there. I'm about to do that in just a few moments. I want you to come, though, to this class every day prepared with a true desire. I want to learn something from you. Don't come here if you don't want to learn anything. Do not come and waste your time. Come here, though, with whatever you got, Professor, I want it. That's the right mindset. Now, as you guys know, I almost breezed past that. The one thing I won't let you do, folks, is do anything that's going to impede somebody else's ability to succeed. Just not going to happen. If I think that's happening, I'll deal with it. And boy, we had some funny ones over the years. One time I was taking a test in a classroom, a statistics class, be by memory now. And it is, when we're all taking tests, it's pretty silent in there, you hear the pens moving around, that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting up here at the old professor's desk, not really paying attention. I'm doing some stuff on my laptop, looking up every now and then. But I hear this sound, and it sounded like this. I'm gonna try my best. It was like, and I'm thinking, I believe we have a horse in heat in here. That's what it sounded like. And I'm looking around like, what the hell? A few other people kind of glanced up, and we just went back to it. All right, so a few minutes later, the horse in heat is back. Now I'm looking around, and people are looking around too, like, what the heck? Long story short, there was a guy that he was stressing out over the test, and his way of dealing with stress was making it sound like a horse, in the throes of something a horse shouldn't be doing. And so I had to pull the guy aside, like, hey, dude, what's up with the noise? Oh, sorry, I'm just stressing out a little bit. I'm like, well, come on, you see me, I'll help you out, but don't mess up everybody else's ability, because everybody wants to see the horse in heat. So, so I just don't want that to happen to you. Now, you guys know, you do know that we do have to get a grade out of this class. So here's what we're gonna do. A couple things here. I'm gonna do some pre-midterm evaluations, which is nothing more than I'm gonna throw a couple of questions at you sometime between now and 5th week. So by 5th week, we get a general idea of whether you're paying attention or not. So a few percent will go to that, I think 20. Midterm, final, 40 each. That's it. No homework, no attendance, nothing like that. That's how you're gonna get your grade. By the way, I modified the Kettering letter grades system a little bit. I think it's a little bit better, you guys, so I try to make it a little bit better on that. There's some stuff in there about support for exams and evaluations if you need support. Like for example, you need extra time, this is something supported by the Wellness Center, just make sure I know about it. We don't need to make a big, there's no big deal about that. I just need you to know, I need you to know that I just need to know about it in advance of the event. Exam questions are going to be based on current topics and reflect homework problems. Hey, let me be clear about that. I will be working problems up here on the exam, and you guys will literally see me from time to time turn around and say, that's an important problem. You know what that's code for? That's going to be on the midterm. Yeah, I will always tell you when something is important. I promise that I will. So pay attention to those kinds of things. Another good reason to be here. So know that. And the final exam, my wording here is the final exam may be comprehensive. May, not is, will be, or is not going to be. I say may because one of the things I want to make sure we do is if there's a problem at midterm and we need to see if there's some play to fix that, then we might do something more comprehensively on the final as we get there. We won't know that until we finally get to that point. So we'll worry about that then. I'm not going to talk about missed exams or evaluations. It's simple. Don't miss them. It's just that simple. Then as far as attendance and stuff, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. There's a bunch of other crap in here. The common statement on students with documented disabilities and common statement on ethics of university and academic integrity that we were told we have to put in our syllabuses by the university. I, to this day, have not read either one of those things, so I have no idea what's in there. If somebody wants to tell me, that's fine. I don't care otherwise. And then the last thing, finally now. I got to be fast about this. One of the things that's in my professional versus student thing was professionals come to somewhere here. Professionals view class attendance as a key to success in optimizing learning and understanding. Non-professional students, they skip classes, they blow off classes, and that sort of stuff. And I tell you that, and I tell you now this story, which I, by the way, have not started a single class in my career, not one, without telling this story, because it's penance. So on my syllabus, I'm talking to you all about attendance, the importance, and it's professionalism, not skip classes and all that kind of stuff. Yet you need to know when I was an undergraduate student, I was the worst of the worst when it came to blowing off classes. For example, I took a course in mid-80s, it was electronics, EE, and the professor's grading policy was whoever's got the worst attendance in the class will lose 10 points off their final grade. I gladly took those 10 points, that was me. And I just did a lot of it. Now, probably no time in my college career did I do it worse than my junior 2 semester. Junior 2 EE, I was taking 24 credits, and none of them were fluffy classes. They were like Calculus 17, bizarre signal theory that nobody understands. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there, right? I mean, stuff that's like psychotically busy. And it is kicking my butt. This semester's kicking my butt. I think my average nightly sleep was 2 hours, maybe on a good night. Now, that was the spring semester. I was B section. Are we in B section? No, we're in A section right now, right? Yeah. So spring semester of the year 1985, and I've got this monster of a 24 credit semester going for me. And I ask you all right now, what can a person who's in the middle of that do on 10th week Saturday of that semester to take an already bad situation and make it worse? Any ideas, anybody? Any thoughts? And by the way, it does not involve a crime. What are you thinking?
Sleep through this is on Saturday.
Yeah, on Saturday. It wasn't sleeping. Don't trust me, sleeping was not part of the equation. What do you think?
Pick up a nasty sickness.
Did not do that. Well, you guys, some people might characterize it that way, but no, that wasn't it. I'll give you a hint.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anybody in here married yet? Fine, it's coming.
Yeah.
My high school sweetheart, who I affectionately call Miss Lori, because I'm Southern by heritage, therefore everybody's a Miss. I may call some of you Miss so-and-so from time to time. Miss Lori and I started dating in high school in the very early parts of the year 1980. We've been dating 5 years, and we decided to get married in that spring semester, 10th week Saturday of that 24 credit nightmare junior 2 semester. Again, I've asked who's married here, none of you. I want y'all to hear this, and sorry, ladies, I'm gonna draw this to the gentlemen in the room. Dudes, listen, you may not know this or not. They want us to be involved with this. I had no idea going into that I needed to contribute to what color of napkins we need, because I couldn't care less. I didn't realize I needed to take part in the decisions about what type of cake we were gonna have. I'm an engineer. An engineer says, it doesn't matter, it's gonna get turned into poop anyway. But no, I had to partake in some of that stuff right there. And I did. So folks, when the semester was finally over with, and by the way, 10th week Saturday, our semesters back then were 12-week semesters. It was literally a I do, I'll see you in 2 weeks kind of thing. At the end of that semester, the 6 classes I had, 6 4-credit classes that I had for those 24 credits, I had the following grades. And we, by the way, we were all in number grades back then. There was no such thing as A, B, C, D, E, F. No such thing, but it was all number grades. Anything below a 70 was a failure, and every failure was a 65. My grades were as follows: 70, 70, 71, 72, 72, 65. I failed the only course I ever failed in my life that semester, folks. The only course I ever failed. And by the way, another class I teach here is mechatronics, how we embed microcontrollers into mechanical systems. The course I failed was microcontrollers. So the irony there, now I'm a professor in that stuff. But anyway, so that put me directly straight to academic probation. And academic probation in those days meant you are on the edge of the cliff and the wind is blowing pretty hard behind you right now. You cannot screw up the next time around. So what do? That was my that was my junior 2 semester. So for senior 1, I made sure and scheduled in some of those, fluff courses that are designed or supposed to boost our grades up, but as I found out, if you haven't found it out already, they almost never do, the kinds of courses that our friends over on the 4th floor of the academic building teach, the ones that start with HS and LS and all that kind of stuff. One of the courses I added in was Classics of American Literature, thinking that I should do well with this one. So that semester rolls around, and I want you guys to hear the way we did classes back then, not these 2 hour and 5 minute blocks. It was 55 minutes. You had classes on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. No classes on Wednesday, just that simple. Classics of American Literature, 4th floor academic building. It was right after lunch. I don't know about you guys, but I appreciate my lunches, and I also appreciate the drowsiness that comes with the time right after lunches, so you couldn't have picked a worse time for this one. But I showed up Monday, first week of the semester. I showed up, walked into the classroom. It's the typical classroom over there. You got where the door, you got where the professor comes to. Then all the tables are arranged in a nice big circle, so we can all look at each other and sing Kumbaya and crap like that. So I came in, sat down, and waited for the professor to waltz in here, and here comes this guy. This guy is so old, you think I'm old. This guy is so old. He's walking through like this. I mean, he's going along like this. I think he was carrying his musket with him from the Civil War. He's been around a few years. And he gets over here, and the dude, he is by far the most uninspiring, boring voice I've ever heard in my life. It went something like this. Welcome to too much energy. Welcome to Classics of American Literature. In this course, I'm going to speed it up just sake of time. In this course, you will read 4 books, complete 4 book reports. That's how you will get your grade. I shall now read from F. Scott Fitzgerald, page 1. Blah, 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 blah. So this course started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right for lunch. I remember sitting there, and within just what seemed like a few minutes, turns out it was only a few seconds, I'm looking around the room at other people in this, and it's like people are like doing this. One guy's like poking himself in the eye with a pencil, trying to stay awake. Some guy had a plastic spoon from lunch, and he's sawing on his wrist already, and I'm like, oh my God, man. Oh, I think my nose started bleeding. It was terrible. I'm like, oh jeez, this is gonna suck. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, don't look at the clock, don't look at the clock. Just listen to this guy, blah, blah, blah. Listen, 20 minutes must have went by now. Oh no, it's 1:01 and 2 seconds. So I somehow got through this first 55 minutes of this monster of a class and left and went on about the rest of my day. That was first week Monday. Now listen, first week Tuesday, I just could not bring myself to go to that class. I blew it off. Wednesday we don't have class. Thursday I think I had a legitimate excuse. I think the fish were biting, so I couldn't go. And Friday's Friday, was class on Friday, right? So no, didn't go that day either. Fast forward, remember I told you these are 12-week semesters. Fast forward to 10th week, and I'm walking over here where the Commons building's at now. It used to be that was a big wide open yard with a cement dog sitting in the middle of it. And I remember walking by this, and all of a sudden it like hits me. It's like, this semester seems easier than it should be. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, calculus 18. I'm missing something. I literally had to call my wife, call up Miss Lori, and call her up, and I'm like, do you know what my schedule is at for my semester? And she's always been more organized than I ever will be. She says, yeah, it's right in your desk in your office. So, all right, cool, I'll check it out when I get home. So got home, schedule. Classics of American literature. I haven't been there since day 1. I've blown the whole semester off. OMG. And of course, we're past the drop bad period, right? And, did I mention I was on probation? I couldn't screw up. So I'm like, oh man, this is ungood. Of course, we're engineers. What do? We solve problems, we figure things out, right? So I'm like, okay, solution. Here are my options. All of them start with me going back to that class. So scenario 1, I'm in the class tomorrow, professor walks in, sees me, you, out. Or maybe I can stack the deck in my favor and he won't notice. So I showed up there about 12:30 the next day, never mind lunch, showed up there about 12:30 the next day. I come in and professor's table, all the tables in a nice round circle, right? So I come in and I'm like, okay, if he's coming through that door right there, here's the professor's table. So I took this table here and I moved it back a few inches. I went to the next one, moved it back a few inches more, the next one a few inches more, because remember, I said the guy was in his upper hundreds, right? So you know his neck is all stiff and like he's not gonna do this. So by the time I got done, the circular table thing, we looked at it from above, the circular table thing is now looking more like a kidney bean. And I'm back here, he's here, I'm about where that chair is right there right now. And to further, I brought like a stack of every book that I had. So I built up this column of books between me and him. I made sure my chair was turned about like this, and I'm diligently writing something down when he comes slowly creeping through the door here. Gets over here, gets to the professor's booth, and stops here. And he does this, folks. He looks around the room, and I kid you not, he did a double take. And I'm gonna never forget the next words out of that man's mouth. The next words were this: I shall now continue reading from F. Scott Fitzgerald, page 14,006, blah, 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 blah. And he didn't notice. I took a breath of air when we got done with that. Almost ran out the room, went straight from across the street to the campus center where we had payphones. Oh, yeah. So in the 1980s and before, there were these things called pay phones. You put money in them, they hung on walls. Anyway, I got a quick call to a buddy of mine at one of the fraternities down the road. I said, hey, you guys got any cribs for classics American literature? Yeah, we got a whole box full. And what do you need? Turns out I need 4 book reports. So he's like, come on down. So I went and got 4 book reports. It turns out they were all incorrect. They had the wrong name on, so I fixed that problem and turned those in. I got an A in classics of American literature. Did. Got off probation, and here we are today, right? But I always tell that story as penance because it's hard. You guys, I'm sure you understand, it's hard for me to say on my syllabus, hey, attendance is everything, be here, folks, with not being that person when I was in the same place you guys are. So I always love to tell that story, it gets a good laugh. We're gonna call it good at that. I'm sure I forgot a bunch of stuff. We'll bring more stuff to the table. When we get together again on Monday, we are gonna see on Monday, we're gonna see the end of the course. You're gonna see where we're going, and then we're gonna talk about how we're gonna get there. Let's support y'all. Have a great day.